My grandma got shot in the face with a shotgun.
What?
When she was like 18. I don't even know if my mom's ever seen my grandmother's face normal. It's her face, her nose bone. First of all, she lived. Can you believe that shit?
To 99.
To 99. To bring 8 kids into the world and a slew of grandkids. But somebody tried to take her out back in the deep South, and my granddaddy was like, I love her. I'll take care of her, no matter what.
These kind of relationships that get disturbed when we don't take the time to know what it is to sing, to know how to get close to the mic again, or to get something. Singing doesn't make it happen, or maybe.
Welcome to another episode of Tune the Fork.
Tune the Fork.
I have singer, songwriter, life liver, dope House of Secrets party thrower, Deborah Bond.
What's up?
With me today.
What's up?
Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you for having me.
Since you came around the corner, the energy has just been amazing.
Love it.
And I am so looking forward to our conversation.
Chat it up.
I got how you feeling? Let me ask that.
I feel great. I feel
Feeling good?
I feel good. I feel blessed.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got a confession to make.
Okay.
I've had many opportunities to meet you, and I have always been intimidated.
Really?
That's crazy, right?
Me?
Mm-hmm. I've been so intimidated. Wow. There are people that I know from a peripheral standpoint who I am just so nervous to meet. I've seen you several times all over the place.
Yeah.
Because it's DC. And
I've seen you too.
I have been so nervous. Even when the last time I saw you
I remember.
in Detroit.
Yep.
And
You were chill.
I was nervous as shit.
I thought about that. I registered that.
So
I didn't register nervousness. I just thought maybe we was just kind of quiet.
even when backstage,
Yep.
before y'all,
Yep.
I'm always nervous.
Nervous. That's
Yeah.
so interesting.
It's crazy, right?
I don't know if that's flattering or if it's like, because I really like to make people feel at home.
Okay.
Like, I'm really like I'm a love bug. Like I'm a flower child. So I like to be like, hey, what's up? Give me a hug. You know what I mean? Like I'm that girl. So someone did tell me in the last year or two, a good friend of mine was like, you like intimidate people a little bit. I know some people that feel a little intimidated by you. And I was like, that's some bull. No.
I don't think it's you though. I think it's, I gotta own it. Me personally, I do.
Yeah.
Because, and that's one of the reasons I've been wanting to invite you on for a while. I've seen you way too many places to just be like, hey Mia, mama. I've seen you in way too many places to feel that way.
Yeah.
So, and to have it, and you didn't feel that way today, right? When you came around.
Not
so
at all.
I wanted to admit that to you.
That's so crazy.
And I wanted to admit it to you on
like
camera.
A dork. I always joke to people, I'm like, I'm a pretty cool dork, you know? I'm just like a little goofy cornball, like a big kid. So.
Everybody who knows you has said nothing, who I know has said nothing but positive things.
I hope so.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
After inviting you on in preparation for this conversation, I wanted to first say, I love the way learning about you made me feel.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. I've never heard that before.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, it was,
I've never heard that before.
like your music is your music. And it is you 100%, right?
Yeah.
But your story, and it wasn't until like going and listening to your interviews and hearing you open up about the background behind why. First off, I want to give a shout out to the brother up in Baltimore, Forgotten Kings.
Yeah.
What is his name?
Thomas.
Thomas, I reached out to you this morning, brother, and thanked you for the care that you put into learning about her. This is Tune the Fork, and I kind of take a different approach. But if anybody wants to know more about like the music, the projects from beginning to end, from the first one, he did an excellent job digging deep.
I had a good time.
Yeah, it was and I can tell that he loved.
Yes.
He was a fan of your music.
Yeah.
And
we have now remained friends from that interview. I mean, like he's a supporter.
Yeah.
That's really important. Like not even to just be a fan, but he is like, he will go to the shows. He wants to be in that mix, and he really did his homework. I mean, we had a great conversation.
I agree. And I reached out to him to say, thank you. You gave me a lot of information, a lot of spaces that I could kind of, dig into and what represents, what I do here. But I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge him.
Props to you for that.
And for sure.
Yeah.
One of the things that I think I really appreciate and what I learned about the process or learned about where you are and learning about you is like your story and how it's almost, if you are a fan of Deborah's music, you kind of have to,
I think so,
go back and get to learn about you.
Yeah.
So before we go into too deep, you are a journalism.
Yeah, I am a documenter, storyteller, want to know the story. I want to get the story. Things that journalists do, whether it's for the newspaper or for the broadcasting or for the radio, you're getting the story. So that's always been kind of a thing for me. For a long time, when I was much younger, I really did think I was gonna end up on Dateline or like, doing, especially investigational reporting and like learning about situations and because there was also a moment when I wanted to study law, and so crime, those kind of things. Not only did I kind of grow up around that a little bit in my neighborhood, I just had a fascination with that whole lane. So I would always want to dig and get the story and find out what's your point of view and what's your point of view. And then beyond that, also with journalism, I just am such I just love people.
Yeah.
I just kind of want to know what's up with you, Yeah. So journalism, documenting, piecing together a story, I feel like it's the same deal with music.
So you interview people, right?
Not as much anymore.
Let's use that aspect of who you are to really just make this dope.
Okay.
I know you know what a good interviewer is, so I ain't got to tell you none of that, right?
Yeah.
You got it. So let's just, to whatever capacity we're capable of doing that.
Yeah.
Because I've never interviewed an interviewer. So, or it may have been some time, but I feel like when it's in you, it's in you, especially if you love people, right?
Oh, yeah.
So
it's there.
You're originally from Connecticut, and one of the things that hasn't been clear to me in what I've absorbed about you from various areas is what childhood was like growing up for you in Connecticut, being the middle of 3 siblings and your mom and all of that. And I really want as clear of a picture of that as I can have.
Man, our childhood was fun. It was, I'm a middle kid, but I feel like I'm just in a big old pool of kids because my mom is from a big family. She's one of 8 kids, all very relatively close in age, and all of her siblings had several kids, and all kind of around the same time. So I ended up being like a lot of the time with my cousins, and a lot of them were boys. So I was like, sometimes when I imagine, you ever seen Crooklyn?
Oh yeah.
You know, the little girl, the little main girl. I was like one of the little boys. I was like kind of a pipsqueak, real small, but kind of tough and like very adventurous and very, very, very imaginative. Because also I was growing up in the 80s. So there was not, YouTube and like, it wasn't even, I think we were hyped when Atari came.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. Like, Atari 2600 or whatever.
Oh my goodness, I was tripping, but before that it was like Connect 4 and Big Wheels, and we were very, contrary to what people might know, like New Haven, Connecticut is like it's like an inner city vibe, So a lot of the time, my mom was a single mom for the most part. And when I was young, she was a hard, working class mom. They say our generation were like latchkey kids.
Yeah.
Kind of felt that. And so my grandmother lived right up the street, my mom's mom and my granddaddy. They were right up the street. So a lot of the time when my mom was working, or even especially in the summertime, we'd all be at grandma's house, big 2-family house, and it'd be not just me, my sister, my brother didn't come till 8 years later, until I was about 8 years old. But then Sean, Quincy, Ray, Todd, Nikki, we were just all like, and we would make our fun. I didn't do some of the things that people might have thought. Like I didn't go to the YMCA. I still don't know how to swim.
So we found one.
Oh, there's more.
I know.
There's a big one too that everyone is like, what? Yeah. Don't know how to swim, and we across the street from my grandmother's house was this like abandoned building. So that was like a playground. Like it was more of that kind of like, I played baseball in the parking lot with my cousins. Like
exploring is what we called it.
We were exploring. We would just be in these buildings, like looking around, I had this like 50% tomboy and then this like 50% like Cabbage Patch Kids and singing by myself with my hairbrush kind of thing. I was really shy about singing at that time. But times were fun. It was like, because we didn't have some of the distractions, So it was like, my cousins taught me how to ride a bike. My other cousin taught me how to tie my shoes. Like, like very random things. It was very family oriented, very loud, very northern. Like, yeah, oh my God, what are you, everybody, a lot of people congregating at my grandma's house. I was also what I call a grandma's girl. I spent time with her, I talked to her, I chilled with her. Like, she could cook, oh my God. Like,
Is she still with us?
I miss her. Yeah, she's been gone for about 4 years now.
Okay.
And man, like, she was something. She lived to 99 years old. And from Perry, Georgia. She's been in New Haven for my entire life, but she would cook that Southern, like I was a Northern girl who ate country food. Like my granddaddy was eating pig feet and chitlin. All of that.
Now here's what I'm concerned about. Thank you for all of that. Please tell me you like chitlins. Come on, man.
I ate them.
Okay.
I did eat them.
Okay.
I mean, I had no choice sometimes. I mean, when I would go to my grandmother's house, my auntie, who is also just my favorite auntie, who passed away 2 years ago, she, her nickname, we had wildest nicknames. My auntie Mary, we called her Aunt Booty.
Aunt Booty?
Not even booty, like B-O-O-D-I-E, booty.
Oh, okay.
But not because she had a big booty. She's like a teeny little person like me. I don't know where my family got that name. But Aunt Booty was big on cleaning fish, frying fish, making chitlins, making chicken gizzards, things like that.
Ooh.
I like gizzards now.
Gizzards and liver? You like organs?
I don't like liver. My mom loved liver and onions and stuff.
Gotcha.
When it cooks, sometimes I can like with the onions and stuff, it kind of smells good. But when I get to bite into that liver, but gizzards.
Yeah.
I haven't had them in years, but I would be tempted if they came my way. Chitlins. I would walk in that door at my grandma's house, and my grandma had this long staircase to her level, and then the bottom level was my Aunt Booty's level. And I could always open that door knowing Booty was making chitlins. Yeah, that aroma, So that was always like, But, I mean, I probably had it all. My granddaddy cook raccoons and things.
Yeah,
You know what I'm
and
saying?
squirrel?
Yeah.
Did y'all eat squirrel too?
I didn't eat it, my mother did.
Okay.
Yeah, my mom would joke about it now. She's like, well, we had squirrel.
And that mug could be laid out flat in the oven, and then, right?
You know, so,
I'm from Kansas.
So you understand.
Yeah,
and it's
100.
crazy. My granddaddy from deep into Florida and grandma from Perry, like they just brought all of that with them. So so many people think, oh, you're from Connecticut. What do you eat? Like quail? And I'm like, no. I mean, I eat a lot of fried chicken, a lot of fried fish.
Yeah.
Then it was all fried fish and spaghetti. Like, you know, it was all, my grandmother did fried fish and spaghetti on Fridays and like a lot of pork chops and a lot of cornbread and good eating, lots of making things up, like pretend type stuff with my cousins, like taking a cardboard box and go sliding down steps. And we were rough and tumbly kids. It was a fun time. My mother's siblings, they're not so close, and it's a lot of them. And so there was another flip side of growing up, which was seeing their interaction. And more women than men. I think I got 3 uncles, and then there's four aunties. A lot of with them.
Have y'all dug deep? I mean, I don't want to say deep, but has there been any?
And you know what's really frustrating is I do have this big obsession with like generations and you probably will hear me mention Generation X a lot because that's where I'm from. I don't like to categorize that way, but the more I've done research and studied like why, what was happening in the world at that time, with my mom's peeps, with her family, they're from that generation that just doesn't want to, they're not into therapy. They don't want, they still have a stigma over that, like talking through their stuff. So they were very aggressive people, physical people, all of them.
Okay.
And so there was another avenue where sometimes cookouts would get kind of interesting. Also a lot of drinking in my family, and that's just real talk, But the wild thing about it was, for some reason, I think it made the cousins, their kids, want to be close.
Oh, wow.
So we're all very close. We are very, very close. Like, I don't see all those names I mentioned, Sean, Quincy, Ray Ray, Todd, Nikki, I don't see them as cousins. I see them like, everybody makes the joke, you got your cousins, but they more like your sisters and brothers. That's kind of how they were. We kind of just went in a different direction. And then some of them who had children, we were still even close with their kids who felt more like first cousins, Now,
how many first cousins do you have?
Probably about 20.
Okay.
Something like that. Because there's 8 of them. And I think only one of my Uncle Bill, he has 1 son, but everybody else has 2 to 3. So maybe not 20.
And my mom,
it feels big.
My mom's the oldest of 9 kids, and I am the oldest of all of the cousins, and I think it might be like 30 of us or 31. Like it's
a lot of kids.
It's in the high 20s. I can't. There's so many of them, but
You're the first of the children?
I'm the oldest cousin. Yeah, my mom was the first to have kids. Yeah, and it's funny because I don't want to say funny, but I interviewed my mom last month for the episode, and a lot of things about our family came out in that conversation that I was unaware of, but it really added some context around, why she was showing up the way that she was, a lot of alcohol and all of that. But it's like, those generational patterns of just unhealthy ways of responding, we get an opportunity to do some different shit.
Yeah, and I think that's what the cousins, I mean, we had our, the cousins had some issues too here and there, but a lot of this, not even my generation of the cousins, like the next step down, like my brother's 8 years younger than me, and he has some second cousins who are like his age, even though they're his second cousins. They like college graduates, families with, nice homes and things. My particular, the first set of cousins, there was a lot, especially they were more boys. we had some things in our family with incarceration and stuff like that, and a lot of baby mamas and things like that, you know.
Gotcha.
And it's so wild to be, you know what I just zoomed through my mind as we were talking about this, and because I'm just like, I'm real talk, I don't really hold back. It's wild for me to still think, even though it's just been my story, that I never talk about my father's side. I never talk about, my parents were teens. My mom had me at 19. I have an older sister who's 2 years older. And my dad did not live till 50. He lived till 49, or right before 49. And it's been more than 10 years now. It's just wild to think like he was there. He was in the city, but I don't have a storyline that goes all of my childhood memories. I think I was at my parents' wedding, and they were done by the time I was maybe like 4.
Now you said somewhere that he was a Black Hebrew Israelite?
Sure enough was. I don't know. I probably have mentioned it in other interviews because it's like hilarious to me now, but I used to hate it growing up. But he gave me this long name. I have like 3 middle names, and they're all based on his activity in that world. So my name, Deborah, is actually Hebrew. Deborah is in the Bible, powerful woman in the Bible. She was a prophetess, and she was the only female in the book of Judges, and she also led an army and like won a war with commanded all these brothers. Yeah.
That's the real woman king.
She the woman king, and she also was the one that everyone would come to for advice, which is the story of my life with my friendships. It's very wild how many parallels with Deborah. But Deborah is a Hebrew name. My name is Deborah Naomi Bente Zebulun Bond. And I used to hate that name growing up because, 80s, we did not have a lot of pride. I will say that about any Black African, we didn't have that back then. So it would be like African booty scratching. That was a way of insulting somebody.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Yeah. And so my cousins would be like, be quiet, Deborah. Like they would just like try to spell my name out and say all this stuff. And then as I got older, and actually when I lost my father, my mother became very sentimental, I will say, because that was her high school like sweetheart type. And she would tell me a lot of stories about my father around like with him naming me and how he I had like no name for a quick minute because he was like pondering it and like there's a stigma with the Hebrew Israelites of today. Okay. I don't have any involvement with it, so I don't really know what the rep is, but people be like, oh, he was probably very militant. He was actually a bit militant in the 70s and probably 80s, but back then I don't know, it didn't sound like from what my mom told me, he would be like on the corner with all the dudes like screaming at you. He went to temples and things, and I think he wanted me to be a boy. And so my mom would tell me that he would take me to these temples where the brothers would bring their sons, and they would bring the boys to this minister, and they would anoint you with oils, and they would pray over you and speak over you. And my mom said she really hated that. She was like, she's a little baby girl. And he'd be like, she's coming with me. And he would bring me there, and she said that they would just speak all this power over me. And all of that I feel now. Like, really? I feel like it's so wild that I didn't grow up with him. I had moments with him. When I got older, I had to work on some stuff for myself as far as forgiveness and things like that. But I did, especially before he passed.
You got that time?
I did. Not in the healthiest state. It was really on his decline. But I sat with him. My first album was out, and he was like,
oh, he got to hear it?
He was like, my uncle, his younger brother, who lives in Maryland, told me a story that he played a song from my first album called Giving Up. And because the chorus is, I'm not giving up, I'm not giving up. And he said he wanted to play it for my father to encourage him. So he said, yeah, man, I got something I want you to hear. This is in the hospital. He's like, you're going to love this. Because my father loved music. He was a big P-Funk, Funkadelic, all of that. So my uncle said he put it on. And he said my father was in the hospital bed like, this is good. Who is this? And he's like, it's Deborah. And he said my father just bursted into tears. So when I saw him, we spoke about that. We spoke about like the music. Hilariously enough, I was dating a white guy at the time. He was not happy. Even on his deathbed, he was like,
no kumbaya.
no kind of kumbaya. He was like, he made this face like, heard about your little boyfriend. I was like,
yeah, go ahead, Pop.
Still who he is.
Yeah.
Still who he is. But
what kind of man was he?
it's a good question. Very good question. All I know is what my mom's told me. And for a long time, from her mouth, he ain't shit. You know what I'm saying? Real talk, you know, but
I got you.
But extremely spiritual. Was not messing with pork. He was on that tip, you know, not into pork. My mom made this joke, and I know where she was going with this joke about what kind of man he was. She said, Deborah, your father loved reefer. Loved it. She'll say that to me like, even though you didn't grow up with him, I think you got a lot in common. She doesn't even know. My mom is very conservative. And I think that was her way of being like, you smoking? Because she was like, he loved, and you know, calling it reefer. That's so hilarious.
Yeah, that's so old school.
70. That's so
reefer
70s,
and herb.
And herb, she called it reefer. She was saying your father loved. So I know he was a pothead. I know he was very spiritual, and I know he was a music lover. My mom. It's funny because all of that's in me. And my mother's like, he was heavy into funkadelic. Like he was a big funk guy. Brothers Johnson and all Minnie Riperton and it's all the stuff that I like go nuts for now.
Now was the uncle who brought him your song the one who told you that funk was in you or something?
That's my mother's baby brother.
Okay.
That's Uncle Dave.
What's up, Uncle Dave? Because you were 100% on point. It's in you.
100% on point. He said, boy, you know the funk lives in you. He told me that as a little girl. And I was like, that's right, Uncle Dave, the funk live in me. Yeah, I feel like it was, you know what's funny? That's my mother's baby brother. My mom's the second to youngest, and my Uncle David, Funketeer, then his band opened for P-Funk every time they came to New Haven, like for over 20 years. Like anytime they came to New Haven, my uncle's band, which was called Rear View, would open for P-Funk.
Rare View?
Rear View.
Like Rear View.
Like rear
okay,
view mirror.
I like that.
Mm-hmm. And then it was like things are closer than they appear.
Yeah,
like some
the Meatloaf song.
Yeah, there's some stuff to why they call themselves that.
Okay.
Yeah. And my other uncle, my Uncle Nate, who is older than my mom, my Uncle Nate and my father were friends. I think that's how my moms met him.
Okay.
And yeah, I think he was a wild child trying to find his way. I feel like, and he also didn't have his dad. My grandfather on my dad's side died in a fire, like from a cigarette. So there might have been some of that, you know, that leaked into how he dealt with fatherhood. Mm-hmm. He was definitely a Rolling Stone. I do have some half siblings out there.
Okay. Okay.
He was a cutie pie and very fashionable. I'm into that.
What's the brother's name?
Vincent.
Okay.
Vincent. Yep. He was the ladies loved him. Half black, half Portuguese, hazel eyes, the 70s. You know, fluffy fro.
Oh, yeah. Yes. Gregory Abbott is on the radio.
That kind of, you know, so.
Billy D.
Yes. So my mom's got, you know, but I'm here because of it.
Shout out.
But I do think that I'm very moved when I hear about the temple and that whole thing. Because when he passed away, I did like a deep dive into Deborah, the story of Deborah in the Bible. And I didn't grow up in the church. They were teens. They were kind of, my mom would jump from religion to religion. We did that. She'd wear the white, you know, with the Israelites. And then we moved to Seventh-day Adventists. And then we kind of landed in Baptist Christianity, you know. But I never I was not the kid that grew up in church singing. So many people ask me that. They're like, you must have been singing in church.
Had
like,
to be.
Nope, I'm listening to Funkadelic records and listening to whatever was on the radio, MTV, and whatever my mom and dad was listening to, that's what I was into. But when I looked up the story of Deborah, man, wow. And then thinking about how much, my mom just really emphasized how much he pondered on my name. Like he pondered, she was like, he really, really thought about what it was gonna mean to your existence. And so Naomi's another person in the Bible. I know Deborah's story a bit more than Naomi's story. Binti, B-I-N-T-I, is a Swahili term for like daughter of, and then Zebulun is one of the tribes of Israel, and they would call my father Zeb. Like that was some kind of nickname for him. So it was kind of like Binti Zebulun was like the daughter of Zeb, and then from this tribe. And then I looked up Zebulun. I looked up the tribe of I just looked up all this stuff, and it was like spooky almost, because I was reading something like the tribe of Zebulun, their power was in like poetry and like art and words, and it gave me like woo kind of feeling, and like between that tribe and between Deborah, like being amongst all these men, and I grew up with all these boys, and I was kind of like, I've always been one of the boys. Even when I moved to DC, like I've built like a big family here, and a lot of them are my brothers, you know. And so I feel more connected to him now than ever, because that's
beautiful.
I feel like, man, like one, I look more like him than my mom.
Okay.
And I feel that energy. I feel the love of the funk. I feel the power that in my name, and being in a male-dominated industry. And then I read something that Deborah led an army, and she commissioned, or she brought on someone named Barack to help her win this war. I just thought that was interesting. I just like told the universe, how are you gonna get me to Barack? How are we gonna get there?
To win this war?
You know, to win this war in this world.
Yeah.
You know? So, you know, I don't really have, it's just really always interesting telling my story, because it's always on the maternal side. And
that's really, it's the thing that sticks out the most to me. Because I suppose I have a natural disposition of not just listening to what people say, but what they don't say, because there's a lot there as well.
Yes.
And it's not, and we all are, you know, kind of like repeating these patterns that have been laid out for us in life, even in how we typically respond to stuff. Because we know that, okay, if I go down that path, then that means it's gonna open some more doors. And that might be something, not to say it's necessarily bad, it's just not a path that I normally take.
Yeah, I like to tell my story though. My mom, she won't like all this information being put out there.
Salute to you, Mom.
She's extremely private.
Okay.
And I'm not. So that last time I saw him in the hospital, and he looked like a whole different human being, and having him call me every now and then, and like he would just kind of, I could almost hear him going away, like that was very impactful. And you know, and the universe don't play no games with me, because I told my ex when he would bring up my father, because he came from a two-family home. They were still family, dad and mom, still together for all those years. I would say to him, you know, if he passes, I don't even think I'll care. I said that to my ex. And when he passed, I was a mess. I was a complete mess.
It's funny you mentioned that. When I first moved here, I went to live with my dad, and he and I didn't really know each other. I was like meeting him. He was very active in my life up until I was around 8 years old. I would see him on a very consistent basis, and then, you know, it became less consistent. And I was going through some crazy stuff in Kansas City, so I needed to get away. The only place to go was here. My dad was here. So I was like, I need to get out of here. I need to come live with you. I kept having a dream of my father passing away. over and over and over and over and over again.
Really? I'm big on dreams, man.
And I never cried in any of the dreams. And this happened for about 2 months, 3 months. I had the dream again and bawled like a fool in that dream. And I distinctly remember waking up and saying, now I love my dad.
Whoa.
And I never had the dream again. I never had the dream again.
That's powerful. That is like, that's powerful.
And I felt so disconnected from him in the beginning. I just saw him as a man. Like, I knew who he was, but there was no connection.
I never got to get one.
The emotional burden that one would generally feel from a loss, just no work had really been done up to that point.
Say it. I mourned what could have been. That for me was what it was. I really kept replaying the what if I would have let that door open to us just talking as adults. Where would we be now? I tell people this all the time. I always wanted to be a daddy's girl. My best friend, my longest living friend, she just lost her daddy like 2 months ago. She always was a daddy's girl. I used to just want that. Like, I'd go to her house and was really close with her family. Her family was cool with my family, and so we would spend a lot of time together. And seeing the way her dad was, and they was country, big old country family, I was just like, I wish I had that. Like, I want a dad. I want to be a daddy's girl, you know? And I wasn't a mama's girl either. Me and my mom, teen time, didn't do we bumped heads a lot. I'm very wild, and she's very strict. But, and now we're just like sisters, which is so wild how life goes. But I wanted that, and I never got it. And this conversation has happened many times, but for real, it definitely showed itself in my relationships.
That's just what I was going.
Definitely showed itself as like a combination of soft and hard, actually. Like, I'm gonna be all right. I could take care of myself a little bit. And then on the flip, I want you to want me, and I want you to like want only me, and I wanted a certain level of pedestal, like help, and not in the way that people might think today with these girls. Some of these
it's a different thing.
Girls are kind of wild for the night with their demands and things, but I just really wanted the guy to want to hold my hand and be like, this is my girl, you know, like all of this, like, look at who because I really do realize I wanted my dad to do that, you know? And so I had difficulty in relationships. I mean, I attracted guys like him. Like, I mean, the reason I made a tribe of all of these brothers is because I dated a basketball player and like actually was tight with his boys before he even came into my life. And then it kind of became like, everybody calls me Debo from college on. Feel like, oh, Debo, you know, like Debo's with him now, whatever. And then when it didn't work out, I mean, why on earth would I choose to date a basketball player in college? Why? Like, team wasn't even that good. But you're a basketball player, you're 6'6". I shared him with many, you know, and I felt like I would analyze like my dad and him not being there, and this guy and one of these guys to want me, and not feeling enough for guys. Not feeling enough was like a theme, you know, and I feel like that was really because of not having that father figure make me feel that way. Because a handful of my girlfriends who I will say are in relatively strong relationships, all of them had their dads. And one or two of them had these like, you are a queen type dads, like you don't let no, like that, and they would just be like, no man's gonna do nothing to me. And it was, and they have great partners, and for me it was like, Lord, I was really walking towards guys like my father for a little while, and then it made me go into this complete opposite of my father direction, where like introverted guys and quiet guys and not very social guys. So I didn't have to worry about who they looking at. You know?
So that was almost like a overcorrection in a
Yes.
way.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I am an extrovert with many introverted tendencies. I can be very lonerish a lot of times, but I have a lot of friends, and I mean a lot. I have everybody that dates me is like, "Who are you hanging out with tonight?" I'm like, "Oh, Vanessa's coming through," or, "Oh, I'm gonna go and see Ken and his kids," and no.
Yeah.
So I have, and I mean like just bubbles of like high school and then American University and then the music world and then the radio world. I've made like close friends, and it can be intimidating for a guy to deal with that with me if they're introverted and they don't really want to be around all these people, and I'm the girl throwing the parties and I'm the girl on the stage and all of that. But I feel like a little bit of that, for a time of my life, a bit of that was like this fear of my father's type. Just like, I don't want a popular guy. I tried that with the basketball player, and nope, I want somebody who's like shy and like not gonna be in everybody's face, because that's gonna protect me from potential, hold'em. But
you weren't, so in both of those situations, it's not really addressing the internal piece that needs to be.
Nope.
So
worthiness and.
When you were in a 14-year joint, right?
Mm-hmm,
That ended in 15, 16?
Top of 2016.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Recognizing the pattern or the overcorrection, if you will, at that time, what kind of adjustments have you made, if any?
That's why I'm laughing. Oh, man.
Since then.
I don't know if I've all the way made that adjustment.
You got a pretty introvert? You want to try to mix them now?
After my ex, I took a stroll down Cougarville.
Okay.
And went right back to my daddy type. Like with the youngins, like dating young, flashy, wild for the night.
Oh.
I'm the cougar.
Oh, gotcha. Oh.
I went right on down Cougar Lane. I attracted, when it became a thing that Debo was single, because it was a known, I'm a girl about town. I was always in the club, always at the events, always at everything. And everybody knew who I was with, because he's a musician and great guy. And like, people loved us together, actually. Really, really good. He's a good human being. We didn't end on a horrible, like nothing, just grew. We were young.
Yeah.
But when word on the street that Debo was free, then it just, for some reason, because I was like, that was 2016, so 6 years ago. So I was like 38, 39. Everybody was like
shooting their shot.
25.
Oh, wow.
26.
Oh, so you went way back.
I went down, I was cougar. I can admit it.
I got you.
I didn't even, I don't have no
No,
regrets.
I could tell. I look at your face. I see all kind of memories popping up. Go ahead.
Hey, it's all right. I mean, pros and cons. But it's weird because I went a little towards my father's direction again, and then got a wake-up call that I probably need to slow on down, and I'm still attracting introverts. It's like, I don't know. Yeah.
So I think I don't want to go down that path because I think we're going to get there another way when we go somewhere else. So there's something that I've always wanted to listen to someone share who I haven't had an opportunity to. And you mentioned it earlier. You have a sibling with special needs. Mm-hmm. And you are the middle child and you were that up until your brother came at 8 years, you know, after. What is that like, being a sibling of a child
It's intense, actually. It's beautiful and hard and complicated all in one, because we're in such a different time now. There's so much more knowledge and there's just so much more information. And for her to be born in 74, I just have to tell this quick story. My sister, I always call her an angel, because I don't think she was like, people didn't want her to live. This is 74. 17-year-old girl has this child. My grandparents are actually, they were older, so they were a part of the whole thing, but they were my grandmother had a 5th grade education, you know. And so my mom's got people telling her she's like, you know, all this bad stuff about you can't have proper babies and all this stuff. And my sister, with Down syndrome people, they have like enlarged tongues. And they kind of look all alike a little bit. They have very similar kind of eyes, and they have a tongue that kind of is a little bit larger. Because of that, my sister was not like suckling like anything, like milk, anything. And it became a problem in the hospital, because they were like, she's gotta eat or she's gonna like starve. And the doctors, according to my mom and my grandma, all of them, the doctors were kind of like, we should just let her die because she's retarded. And my mom, to this day, she was like, your granddaddy was like, ain't no grandchild of mine gonna be left here to die. We're gonna take her home. We're gonna take care of her. And my mom said what she would do, because she would not like latch, you know. She would put these just give her little droplets of stuff. She would just be like, it was so time consuming, but I was gonna make sure Tamisha got that milk. Like my mother was like, my granddaddy was like, we're gonna figure this out. And so they brought her home, and from what my mom says, and on top of that, my sister also had like a heart murmur, like a little bit of a heart issue. So they were, you know, in that time period, that's like, you know, ignorance, all of that. They're trying to convince her, just let her die, put her in a home or something. That's definitely not my mother's Leo personality to give up on anything. And so my mom was like, my mom and my granddad, she always says that my granddaddy was just like, she is going to live. And so I think the combination of my mother's gentleness and my granddaddy's like, and my mom also told me that, and this is how, you know, it's one of the keys of life, but music. My mom would sing to her all the time and just try to keep her active and awake and alert. And I really think that kept her here. And so by the time I came along, my sister's 2 years older than me. I don't think I really even understood that she was different until I got around other people. But within my household, it was just the two of us and my mom. And I didn't, you know, and my mom was also dating. My mom's in her 20s. It's crazy for me to think, like, my mom was like kicking it.
It's
like,
crazy, right?
Yeah, I was a little kid. She was kicking it. But she was, you know, dating. She was very protective. And she poured that into me. And so I immediately I was very protective of my sister. But it's a cruel world out there, man. Like, and at that time, the ignorance was on another level when it came to special needs. And because now we're at a time where people don't even use the term retarded, you know what I mean? But back then.
Yeah, that was standard.
You know, standard. So it was a very interesting childhood for me in respect to my sister, because when I was at my grandmother's house, my sister would kind of parlay in my grandma's bedroom and play with dolls and things, and I would be with the boys outside. But when it was like home time, growing up with my sister was quaint. It was because we couldn't have a conversation. Like there was also that. So like I was saying, the wanting to be daddy's girl. I also wanted to have like a sister. We do each other's hair.
Yeah.
None of that. It was like, and I think it's partly why I am very comfortable by myself, because my sister would be in the room. We always shared a room growing up. I never had my own room. Always shared a room. But she was just there. She would communicate with me. She would tell me if she wanted something to the best that she could. She speaks very fragmented. We would try to teach her how to say things in a complete sentence, but that's very tough for her, still to this day. So there were times when I would just kind of be in my own world and kind of imaginative, but I was really like, she was like my baby sister. So making sure that like I would put music on in the room, and we have our 2 little twin beds, and I'd go sit on her bed and we would be rocking from side to side. She loves music, and she would retain music. She would do this thing. She would go like this from Uncle Dave, where she'd stomp, put your foot on the rock. She would do that, you know, and she would love, she sings the song, "Don't Call Me Whitey." She
Don't
knows
call
that.
me digger.
She's like, it wouldn't be as clear, but we knew that that's what she was saying. She was really like, I don't want to say almost like my little like sister doll, because beautiful hair at the time growing up. I always wanted to do her, comb her hair, tell her she's pretty. You so pretty, Misha. And she became a little dainty in that way. I mean, we took pride in making her stand out from other special needs kids. So by the time she got to like middle school age, she was more so in programs than in school, where they would teach her life skills or try to get her motor skills or as advanced as they could. For her to have severe Downs, it was not easy. But like, she got to a grade where they wanted to throw the kids a prom. Don't tell my family that. We got a stretch limo, this pink, like and the families of the other kids were like, they were so shocked as if she didn't deserve it.
Yeah, like this is what we would do for you.
Right.
So
I'm like, Misha gonna be fly. Like, no, I mean, she's gonna be fly, because that's, you know, we want to make sure you know that we value her and that we don't want her to have any less than any other person. So we were very big on that kind of thing, and I was very, very, and I still am, like very like, don't come for my sister. But the crazy thing is, even still, I dealt with a lot. Like, I dealt with my friends picking on her, or not picking on her directly to her, but laughing a little bit. My neighbors, big family next door, hoodish. They see her, start laughing. We coming in the house, coming from school or wherever. My mom would dress us like twins when we were little. She'd dress us, and we both looked like my father. She looks even more like my father than me. She would dress us like little twins, and I thought it was the coolest thing, you know. But people are cruel, you know. I had a lot of people who act like they were so scared of her, like she was an animal. That was a really tough part of it for me. Like this whole animal, like she's a creature. Why is she doing that? Why is she doing that? You know, those kind of questions. And that shit would make me mad. It would make me so mad, but I call her my angel because I feel like it blessed me, because I have such a compassion for humans, not just special needs. My mom really raised my brother and I to just be good people, just to be kind to people.
Yeah.
Just to be kind to people. And through seeing such lack of kindness towards my sister, it made me even more want to not be that kind of person, and be an understanding person of everyone's situation. And so I feel like, as much as I didn't have like that companion, like us in the room putting on our makeup or talking about boys or whatever, I just gained character, you know, and
you didn't get what you wanted, you got what you needed.
Exactly. Yes, that. And I'm thankful, you know. And there are Downs people who are way more advanced. You know, I mean, I used to watch the show Life Goes On with the actor Corky was the lead guy in the first television show where the lead actor was a Down syndrome boy. And I thought that was like mind blowing because there are other kids that are more advanced. So there was just a lot. I've always grown up with oddities like that, like always. Like I really am going to write like a memoir or some kind of book when I slow it all the way down because I've always lived with that kind of stuff. Like there's so many stories, but from my mother's mother, my grandfather, my sister, and then my stepdad's daughter. When my stepdad and my mom got together around, I was about 10, my mom has 2 daughters, my stepdad has 2 daughters. His oldest has mental handicap as well.
Wow.
So I had 2, and they came to my life in hard. Like they came in like, we doing family gatherings with them, and you know, shout out to Dana and Dion. Dana has a condition called water on the brain, so her head is a bit larger. She's way more advanced than my sister. We could talk, you know, but she's developed a bit mentally slower. But
Gotcha.
I used to have to deal with it double time because people would stare at her too, you know, and so. And people would stare at my grandma because some wild shit happened to my grandma. My grandma got shot in the face with a shotgun.
What?
When she was like 18. I don't even know if my mom's ever seen my grandmother's face normal. It's her face, her nose bone. First of all, she lived. Can you believe that shit?
To 99.
To 99. To bring 8 kids into the world and a slew of grandkids. But somebody tried to take her out back in the deep South, and my granddaddy was like, I love her. I'll take care of her no matter what. And he married her yet and still, and this isn't a time, I can't even imagine, this isn't a time where, you know, the hospital, she said the hospital experience alone was just horrible, like no proper pain medication, all that stuff. Shot in the face, yo.
Hold on for a second.
Yeah.
I got to process. Your grandmother, before having any kids, gets shot in the face. Your grandfather says, I love her. I'm going to take care of her. We're going to stay together. And then they go out and have 8. Where'd they move from? Florida?
From Perry, Georgia.
Moved from Georgia to Connecticut.
First Georgia to Boston, where my first aunt was born, and then they brought her to Connecticut and had the rest. Yeah. And this is like, what, 50s? I don't know. Yeah.
I feel like your grandfather is that dude.
Yeah.
I mean, grandma too. But
my granddaddy is the man. I mean, like, first of all, I told you he saved my sister's life because my mom said he was like, no, we are bringing her home. Like he brought my grandmama home.
What's your grandfather's name?
William Reeves Sr. I miss him too. I miss them both. That's a strong couple right there. Strong couple.
Did they ever find out why your grandmother got shot in the face?
Now, here's the wild part. Here's the wild part about stories and family stuff. It's so wild how my life has gone. For many years growing up, had this story in my mind that it was like some white man in the deep South that shot her because of some racist shit. I really did believe that. And it directed some of my feelings towards white people for a while. How ironic I end up with a white guy. See, I'm telling you, write a book. But I don't want to say not long before she passed, because it was way before then. But one day I was over at I would have breakfast with her. Every time I went to Connecticut to visit, from 17 on, the very first, I get out off the train and go to her grandma's house. I had to be with her. I had to have my time with her. And she told me one day what happened. And it was not what I thought. My grandmother, as the story goes, my grandmother was adopted. A lot of her personal history is just gone, destroyed in fires and things in the South. So we don't even know her exact birthday. There's a lot of holes in her story. But the story that everybody talks about, my granddaddy's peoples and my grandmother's peoples, is that she was really beautiful. Grandmother has this really reddy, kind of red goldeny brown skin and really long, thin, straight hair. And the story goes that she was like the looker of the of where she was growing up. And a lot of people fancied her. And she was one night traveling home from doing something. I don't even remember where she said she was coming from, but she was traveling home, and it was dark. It was getting dark, so she tried to take this little shortcut to get home as soon as she could. And this man who was in love with her was like, "Who's out there?" And she was like, "It's Mary. It's me. I'm just passing through." And she said that he knew it was her, and he knew her, and she was young too. She wasn't interested in him. And she said that would really upset him. She wouldn't get with him. And he acted like he couldn't see who it was, and he didn't know, he couldn't hear, and he felt threatened. And he pulled out a shotgun and said, "Who's on my land?" And she was like, "It's just," and he just shot her. Here's the wild thing. I don't think he lived long after that. You know the South now. According to old family stories, is that my grandmother was so loved that it might have been some street justice.
Yeah.
To whoever this, and it was a black man. It wasn't the story that I thought it was. It wasn't the story that I thought it was. But my grandmother would talk about how painful that was, as far as just going from this beautiful woman to just, shattered parts of her cheekbone, broke this. So there was like, all my life I saw like an indentation here, and some scarring. And her teeth were really messed up.
Nothing with her eyes?
Nothing. Well, she had glasses, really, really poor vision, but nothing with her. She could see, like, eyes all right. Just, it was more like right here.
Okay.
And I don't know if it was because of what kind of, like, how she lived. I don't know. Like,
yeah.
I don't know what type of, it must have just blasted, like, and like it didn't go through
Like
her.
buckshots.
Yeah, it didn't go through anything. It just crushed all of this. And so that's what I grew up seeing. So I already had an idea of difference, But then my granddaddy had all these businesses growing up. He lost his left arm in a construction accident. Just got caught in a cement mix.
Her husband?
Granddaddy, yep. So my granddaddy had one arm, and my grandmother's face was deformed. And this was my family's parents. So my mom was like, "Do you know how much people would make fun of our parents? Like, call us like misfits kids and Frankenstein and all this stuff?" So I've always just had a sensitivity, like, to different people who don't look like other people who had it harder, because my grandmother didn't drive a car. She didn't my mom said that she wouldn't come to the school plays and stuff. She was really embarrassed at how she looked. So she stayed home and took care of the family. My granddaddy worked, and then in his own job. So with granddaddy, I used to always like help him. And this was way back in the day, so he would put the thing on it. All it had was a hook kind of a thing for his arm. But for the most part, and I have to show you this article written about him, this powerful article. We have it framed. But you can see, just like, him just standing in the shirt with this thing hanging down. And I'd never seen him with two arms. That happened before I was born. So between the two of them, and then here comes my sister, like, I feel like I always grew up seeing seeing life in an interesting view because of that.
And it's so
I know it's all heavy.
no, it
But it's real. You know?
I appreciate so much you sharing that part of your lineage, because what I feel it does is like I said in the beginning, I love the way learning about you made me feel. And through the process of you starting your musical career and releasing the albums and going through, success and then having to manage, what you're going to do, moving forward. And again, like anyone who knows you, this is tune the fork. It's not going to be like a traditional, like, hey, so what'd you do with that album?
Yep,
What'd you think?
Yep.
But
I like that.
Compass is about you embracing a part of your life and who you are and what you're going to be doing and how you're going to do it with the next piece.
Yeah.
And everything I'm hearing you talk about with your grandparents and with them trying to come to terms and making peace and finding a way forward and owning to the best of your ability, like who you are, is so profound, because even as I'm listening to the music, there's this, there are two things that kind of come to my mind when I'm listening to Compass, and it's strange because I think it's the first song, Time. And there's this, I think, conversation. I feel like there's a conversation you're having with yourself about time.
Definitely.
And how you're going to manage who you think you are, who you want to be, who you're going to be, relative to how much time you've lived, and how much time is left.
Yeah. And I never, not until this time have I been there. Like, now. That song couldn't have been written 5 years ago, 7 years ago. It was written in 2020. When I was probably 20, I started writing at the end of 2019 into 2020. But it was in the kind of in a heightened feeling of loss, just feeling straight up like lost, mixed with the ever-present bullshit of, I'm supposed to be here at this point in my life. I'm supposed to. Well, that didn't happen. Am I gonna dwell on that? Am I gonna live in that? Or am I gonna move forward? I've always felt like I was a little ahead of my time. I've always been a little teeny bit of an old soul, especially when it comes to music. And so, yeah, that song, I consider that a little bit of my midlife crisis song. Because you do hear a lot in life. You know what? I wrote this line. How many times have I heard that you've got nothing but time? Because I always had this thing for wanting to be older. Like now, this generation, nobody want to be old. It's like, live like it's your last, you're young for life, never getting old. But for me, for some reason, I wanted to be, it was more so wanting to be grown. I wanted to be an adult. I wanted to make my own rules. I wanted to be like Janet and have control, right? And people would be like, slow down, you don't have nothing but time. I would hear that a lot because people recognized that in me, that I wanted to like. Because
that's what you tell young people.
Yeah, that's what you tell young people. You ain't got nothing but time. You slow down and enjoy life, you know? And so, and coupled with the fact, just as a funny aside, that I've always looked a lot younger than I am. So when I was like 15, I looked more like 12, you know, like 11, like real tall. Like I didn't really look, still having people like, you're not pushing 50, right?
Same, yeah.
You know what I mean? Well, I make this joke that something with 76, 74.
I agree.
We had something special in our milk or something. I don't
There
know.
you
man.
go. There you go.
It's like every time too.
I agree.
Like, so I knew you was from that same, yeah. But I never, ever felt until more recently that time is like speeding up now. Like time is feeling like it's running out for am I gonna be anything in this music world? Am I gonna have a husband? Am I gonna be a mama? All these questions that have to do with like, time is about to start ticking faster now. What you gonna do? This is where you are. Did you think you were gonna be here? That was what that song, it was all contemplating. And it was like definitely, a lot of my songs are either stories or conversations with myself. So that song was definitely
That's
a
how I feel.
conversation with myself. Like how many times have I, damn, time is running out. Like I gotta stop living in the past, man. Like I better start like living in, I've always wanted to be in the future. I'm in the future. It's, you know, I've always been kind of fast moving, wanting to go, go, go. Well, you better live now, because now it feels like time. It felt like when I was young, I could never just, I can't wait till I'm 10. I cannot wait till I'm 16. I cannot wait till I'm 21. I'm 40. 45.
I'm 45.
You know what I mean?
I'm 46, yeah.
And so as my birthday approaches, and I think about this more often, that song is really, and I've had a lot of grown folk tell me that song hits them in a special way because they can relate to that, you know?
And it's, loving the way learning about you made me feel. I feel all of it. Mm-hmm. I don't have much left. All of the things that I felt was keeping me back from loving and embracing and being loved, I had to address because of time. Mm-hmm. I recognized that it wasn't serving me to hold on to these things and to stop putting the responsibility of external forces and people to, you know, kind of right whatever quote unquote wrong I felt was in me.
Yeah.
And that's the path that I wanted to take with the conversation about the relationship piece. Mm-hmm. And as opposed to tweaking the characteristic of the man, whether he's an introvert or extrovert, whether he's a pretty boy or...
What am I tweaking in here?
And I feel like two things. I really, really, really love all of what went into that and what you were speaking and why you were speaking it, from the visuals, from the black and white, from the stripping everything down, from you shaving your head, from you really letting go of the Madame Palindrome joint, like from to stripping it down to the bare minimum of who you are, from New Haven, from grandpa, grandma. Mm-hmm. Adding these stories, just so you know, really makes this conversation for me just, it's like the bow that goes on top. So I'm saying
First time I've ever shared that publicly about my grandparents. First time in my life I've ever spoken of that in an interview.
Thank you.
Yeah, I feel very comfortable. Real talk. Yeah.
Is Compass the start of you starting that internal work so that you don't feel like you're wasting more time?
Yeah, because right before I started, when I made the decision to even put that project together, I felt like I was just spinning like a hamster in a spinning wheel on many levels. Cougarville, not making the proper choices, but kind of giving excuses behind it. I'm saying I haven't, whatever. That. Music complacency and like just kind of not creating, doing working hard. And I hate to put it this way because no offense to anyone I was working with at that time, because I was working really hard over those years, but like around 2016. But working hard and really not doing anything for Deborah Bond, like jumping on your show, singing covers in a bar, kind of getting nowhere fast. Like all of that was just reaching a culmination right at the end of 2019. And I'm thankful for a few specific people in my life who had these conversations that were like, you have to it's time for some cleanup. It's time for you to, you believe in yourself. Because that's something I never doubted. I've never doubted my gift. I've always known it was there since I could open my mouth and sing like at 5.
That's amazing.
I've never doubted my gift, but I began to doubt my ability to live off of it, to thrive off of it, to continue to create it. And I was taking on things that just weren't serving me properly. And so yes, when I decided to make that change as far as production and having to take a step back from my comfort zone with the people I was creating with, who we weren't doing much at the time anyway, that to me is when the real internal work kicked in. And it's still happening. It is still a serious process, but I am writing that album was very therapeutic.
You could feel that.
Mm-hmm. And the other thing, too, was because I also didn't think I had this to me, it's not a good thing that I was approaching it in that direction, but I'm thankful for the people around me who pulled me out of this direction. But in my mind, I just was I was diminishing what it would be before it was anything. I'm just gonna put together this little thing and I just need to write some songs and at least get some new music out and I'm just gonna put it, it's just gonna be a little something. I didn't really wanna hype it up. I was nervous about it and all of that. And I had a couple of folks that were like, no. Mm-hmm. This is some good stuff. Don't hide it. You know what I mean? Don't be shy about it. But it really did open this door to a couple of things, because also with Madame Palindrome, I had created a brand for myself. I was very proud of this too. This is where the journalism, comes in. Is I wanted to tell a narrative and I wanted to present myself a certain way, and so I would dress a certain way, and it was all in line with this funky diva, Madame Palindrome, this funk princess kind of is what I was going for. And I would just have I would post a certain way, I would highlight the good half of my centaur, because I am really much a Sagittarian, half human, half beast. I would highlight the human, the heart of me. And so I would always show, I made a promise to myself to stay as positive for young people. I really have a thing about wanting to encourage young people who want to be in music and all that stuff. So in doing that, it was a little gift and a curse, because I really did create a cool brand where I had people telling me how they love following my Instagram or whatever because of the things I would say and share. But there's also this beast of a person in me. There's also a very wild spirit in me. There's also a rebel type, I don't like rules, I don't like to be told what to do type of person in me that I felt like my fans were not seeing. And they, at least 3, 4, 5, 6 times over the years, I've literally had people be like, you're the happiest person I know. You're so positive. I had someone say, what is it like? What does it feel like? How does it like navigating through life being such a happy person? This is also the person that loves horror, loves crime stories.
Yeah.
No, I'm not happy all the time. I actually have a real life dark side, as I will call it, you know? And I felt like with Compass, it opened the door to being like, you gotta see me as like the fullness of me.
Were you feeling like a fraud?
No, because there's very much a see the glass half full, optimist. I want to laugh. I love laughing. I'm really goofy. There's this happy part of me. It's really there and it's real, and it's not gonna go away. I also struggle with like people who can't snap out of things, like brush the shoulders off types. That's a struggle with me because I want to have fun.
You don't have patience for that kind of shit.
I don't want to be. Although it's in me too, which is wild.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
I
yeah,
just am, I like to bounce back. I don't want to wallow in depression. I don't want to. So there was that side of me that people were seeing all this happiness and all this, because I felt like also it's social media. This is my press and my marketing. I'm not giving you my dirty laundry. I had that mental, like I'm not sharing none of that dark stuff with y'all. Y'all here to listen to this music and feel good. I want to make you feel good. Steve-O, that, right? But my life wasn't going that way. And I didn't want to hide because I don't usually hide. So that was the first, and I didn't anticipate ending that relationship. When I was branding myself this way, it was a different life for me too. I was in love and like starting to do big shows and like, you know, glowing up and all this stuff. So what I was showing was still very honest. I didn't have any kind of imposter vibe, but I had to now open the door to the reality of what was going on now. Yeah. From that 2016 to 2019, 2020, it can't be all bells and whistles anymore. And so I wanted the album to begin that journey of sharing another side of myself.
How do you feel connecting with that side of yourself and sharing that piece? I imagine I was very uncomfortable when I first did this, but I'm one of those people now to where I look for the discomfort because I've done it so often. I recognize that that's where the greatest results are. Yep. Those where the biggest wins are. And I lean into it now in a way that I didn't always before. But that's a part of that time thing too. Because not doing it, it's like prolonging the win, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
So how do you feel?
I wasn't uncomfortable. I was more so nervous. And that doesn't always, I'm kind of used to nervousness. Getting on stage, every time I get on stage, I'm nervous. So nervousness is not necessarily as uncomfortable for me as it might be for others because I'm used to that feeling as a performer.
Gotcha.
So I was nervous to share. It wasn't about the content. It was about, this isn't the sound I had before. This is different.
Really?
Because I had in DC especially, I also had to pop my DC bubble. That was another bit of advice that I was getting at the time, is like, you gotta get out of here. You gotta get on the road and go to LA. Have you sung there? Have you sung in Texas? Because if you stay in any bubble and you do move the way I did, which was in a beautiful progression, you can think that it's gonna be like that everywhere.
Yeah.
You know, and the way DC shows love is so strong, you know, and the love for me was growing so strong. And we were marketing ourselves, Deborah Bond and Third Logic. Third Logic were these three brothers that were my producers and my bandmates, and one of them my guy, you know, and like people would be like, where's Third Logic? You know, fans would, oh my God, Deborah Bond, Third Logic. So I was like, this doesn't sound like Third Logic.
Yeah.
But it actually does, interestingly enough. And I've had several people be like, nope, you stayed right in your lane.
Yeah.
You found your tribe again. But I was afraid I was gonna get a lot of like backlash as to like the quality of my music or the sound of my music. It was more so me being worried that I'm not gonna be to a certain standard that I had created with the last record.
Sonically, not
Not lyrically.
That's crazy to me.
Was not worried about that at all. Vocally, 10 years later, voice has changed, voice has aged, and I even embraced that. Even though that's one that's still yin and yang, because I have some, with the climate of music right now, and vocally what's the style of singing that's in, it's not me. So I still have my battles with just having to accept this throat I was given, or that I have tarnished in ways and that's aged and all that. But really, and so with the singing, I set out to purposefully leave imperfections, to not obsess over perfection, to just like, if the note is off, if it cracks, if it breaks, let it, because I'm a little broken. This is real.
That's you.
You know, and so it was really more of the standard I was nervous about. And I had a few people. It's funny, I have my Madame Palindrome people, I have my Day After people, and I have my Compass people, and then I have my my diehards who are just, they're gonna dig into all of it. But I had people, Madame Palindrome was a very UK, so like Europe, just ate that shit up.
It was cold.
Way more than America.
It had, at least from a visual standpoint, it was like Bjork type.
Yes, and I was heavily influenced by her. That's so crazy that you say that. I was so...
The cover just says, like, if you just took...
Homogeneic.
Yeah, like that's the cover.
Yeah,
Like,
no one peeps that. That's so dope. That is like, I was really into alternative music. I was really trying to be extremely artsy. All of us were heavy into Jamiroquai and like...
I like the Alan Stone.
Lewis Taylor. The duet.
No, the guy who engineered it.
Oh, wow. Al Stone.
Yeah. I like the story of that, by the way.
Dreamy.
Go check the
Dreamy.
Forgetting Kings interview where she goes into that.
Dreamy. That was a dreamy moment for me.
Yeah.
But that had its own little love bubble. And there are people who really love Day After. Day After was the baby, and it was also like the neo soul, we were just a part of that beautiful movement with all of these artists, Kendrick, the Family Soul, and Jill, and Beyonce, hilarious. Bilal, that's what I meant to say, Bilal, and all these cats.
And that was a dope debut. I mean, it was.
People were impressed. For the time.
And for that to be like a first go at it, I mean, I'm saying that as if. I don't even like saying that because Maxwell's first joint was a classic. D'Angelo,
Baduism. The first one is usually there's some magic there if you get it right. And I feel like even though there were many sonic issues with that first one, but it was like we were kids. I got grants to fund it and all that stuff. But the music was extremely authentic and extremely soulful. And like that one has like, that's always gonna be my baby. But with Compass, I was like, are they gonna like, this isn't all like this kind of like adult contemporary funk. It's got like some hip hop edge and some hardness here. And then this ending song is kind of like electronica. I just was so nervous that people were gonna be like, oh, she done dropped her standards, she done left her logic. And I'm now having people be like, nah, this is like my favorite job.
So, to me, the trajectory reflects me and where I am in my own life and in owning these parts. Like there's certain moments in a lot of the different songs that really strike nerves.
Really?
Oh yeah.
I like that.
Yeah,
I like that. That doesn't happen to people anymore.
To where like I'm real in tune with my emotions, and I own the entire spectrum.
Yes, please.
And so
yes,
I listen not to judge but to connect. And so.
Oh, that's such a beautiful thing. You say it again. For real, because we're in a judgy time.
Yeah,
and it's to judge and not to connect.
And my favorite songs have changed.
Good. That's how that makes me feel good too.
Yeah.
Because you're digging in it.
Yeah, and so I'm excited for you as a human and what doors you choose to open up, and adding the grandparent story, adding the dad story with the focus on the name and what Deborah means. There's so many ingredients that are in the pot that you can pull from.
Got chills.
to really express yourself in as broad of a way as you choose to.
I'm getting emotional about this, but because I have to tell you that even hearing you say that, you give me a little spark of a sun ray, because I just had this conversation with somebody recently. We artists, we all go through those, that self-doubt, and we question and we don't know. And one of the biggest things I've had so much self-love and pride in when it comes to my art is my writing. Bluey from Incognito, the leader of that band, the founder of Incognito, as much as he loves to hear me sing, when he speaks of me on stage or in interviews, he speaks of my writing, right? And I've always been a poet. I started writing poetry when I was like 8, And so in this day and age, even kind of circling back to the song, Time, just hearing you say what you're just saying right now is a breath of fresh air, because what scares me and what saddens me as I try to stay focused and push on with my dream, so I don't think people care about what I'm saying anymore. I don't think people care about what artists are saying anymore. And no disrespect to the Queen Bee, no disrespect, because I admire her work ethic and her talent. But when that album dropped, and I saw the nutso frenzy that always happens, and I dug into what she was talking about, or not even what she was saying, how she says it. I go through these waves of like, I don't know if I belong in this game anymore, because I'm in it to connect, and I'm in it I need you to listen to me. I need you. I have a song called Blind Paradise, and there's a line that says, I'm not a robot, I need you to hear me. And we're not in that time anymore. There's where my glass is not always half full, because it's the thing I love to do. It's why it takes me so long to make music, because I think about what I'm trying to say, and I do think about it kind of intensely, because I want you to hear this message. And it could be about sex, it could be about death, whatever it is, I want you to hear it, And so I have had since Compass has been released, I have had moments where I'm like, yo, you're gonna be under the radar, indie, underground forevermore. Because no one really wants your kind of music. Because I do write for writers and for people that are trying to get a little more than just a groove. You know what I mean? We have music, all has its time and space. I love me some, Chris Brown. There's some pop stuff that I want to hear because I want to dance, I want to party. But when I listen to Rocket Love by Stevie Wonder, I lose my mind every time because of how he said what he said and what melody choice he chose. And we're not in that time, so I get sad sometimes, because I feel like I'm an artsy artist, and I'm not just out here to just go with the algorithm or go with the flow and do what everybody's doing. I want to, when I wrote Patience, that was about something. There's a story right there. There's a story. Don't you want to know it? But people don't even care.
I got it in my phone. I got questions.
They don't even care. So to hear you say what you're saying, I thank you for saying it, because I have had these gloomy moments where I'm like, there aren't people with that frame of mind around anymore, so who's gonna buy my music? Because that's who I'm creating it for. I'm not creating it for people that just want some fluff.
Can I offer something? You want your daddy to hold your hand.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And when we're making this stuff,
Yeah.
it's the making it that's
It's vulnerable. It's
and people aren't going to get it really.
yeah. Yeah.
And most people, and I feel like with you and where you are and some of it, it's all I kept hearing you about, all I kept seeing when you were saying that was your father. All you want is your daddy to hold your hand.
Yeah.
Like these people aren't going to get it. They're not going to hold our hands.
That is some realness right there. That is some realness right there.
But we have to make it, and it does matter.
It's important. It's necessary.
It's everything.
It's spiritual. It kept my sister alive. Music. My mother is like, Deborah, I would sing. I think sometimes with the lack of it that's been out of her life, and with COVID and being so isolated, it's changed her. So I know it's power in it. So I need my fans to hold my hand. I need to know the love is there. But I also have to understand that even and here's Deborah, here's the warrior, even in the resistance, I have to not let that get me in the defeat space. You know what I mean? I have to analyze what is a winning of a battle, which I have really thought about in my life because my goals have shifted from day after to now as far as my career. And even as my life, life, you know, so.
What is a win?
Man, so many forms. Performing with Incognito is a win. I used to listen to them in college. And now this cat done stayed in his house. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Bluey writes almost every song on every maybe 18 Incognito records since the beginning of that band. The band's over 30 years old. He's written every lyric. When he heard Madame Palindrome and we finally met in the really serendipitous happenstance way that we met, he was like, your writing is phenomenal. Like, you wanna write with me? All of many others in the collective of Incognito, the United Nations of Incognito, as he calls them. He says, the band is called Incognito because you never know who's gonna be in the band. He's the only one he's had over 500 members since his existence.
God.
Yeah. All of them, like, the fact that he let you write your song is huge. You know that, right? Because he doesn't do that. And I really did my research, and he does not. The fact that this man that I admire so much allowed me to write a song that was inspired by a conversation I had with my mama when we both were just building like this and encouraging each other. And I decided to write, I see the sun, it shines a little brighter today because I decided to find a peace inside and rearrange my mind. And I find a freedom when I try to see that there's more to life that helps me make it through the day. I wrote that as I watched the sun come in the window after I hung up the phone with my mother. I write this song for Incognito. Bluey sends me this message and says, good grief, you just shared your soul with me. Record the song. And then on the flip, he tells me that one of his dearest friends has a daughter with anorexia who it went so far gone that she ended up coming close to dying in the hospital. And Bluey gave his friend this record, a record called Amplified Souls, the second to last Incognito record, and she couldn't stop listening to I See the Sun, to the point where her father said it healed her. My first world tour with Incognito, I get flown to London for a week to rehearse with them, and I meet her. That's a win. That is success. That's powerful. All of these things. Bluey lets me write a song. Beautiful moment with my mama. Inspired the song. I wrote the song in 10 minutes. I don't write songs in 10 minutes. I write songs in months sometimes. All of that, that's a win. I'm like, what? That's what it's about, man. And then I'm like, I'm used to listening to Deep Waters like on 96.3 all the time. Seeing myself on VH1 Soul, in my music videos on in a Foot Locker, on the TV. That's a win. Because I was that kid that wanted the music videos and was always watching the Eurythmics and Boy George and Janet Jackson.
Simply Red was my people.
Simply Red, dude. That's trippy too. That's so trippy. I literally thought about holding back the years this morning when I woke up. Well, not when I woke up, when I was in insomnia land. But
So you have to redefine your wins now.
Yeah, because to some, that's cool. Who's Bluey again? You know what I mean? To some, but that's a win for me.
Yeah.
When my Uncle David told me that Deborah, my band, might not have got a record deal, but the fact that I get to open for my absolute favorite band every time they come to my city for over 20 years, he's like, that's one of the biggest wins I could have ever asked for. That's like me opening for Janet every time she comes to DC. You know what I mean? Like that has been his story. So that conversation even with him had me reevaluating what a win is and what success is. And there's down to the places in the rooms of meeting Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis and singing, for them at an event like this year. I can't even believe I did that.
I think I saw you post that. Yeah.
I can't even believe I'm just sitting there like, hey, I'm Terry. I'm like, I know.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Jimmy. And they just, we're all at the Hamilton backstage like, huh. That's winning. Just to be, for me, it is about my elders. I've always coming back to time and me being a bit of an old soul. I was raised to respect them. These youngers out here, that's a different world in America especially. The younger people don't have the same respect with aging people or older people, but to be in rooms and spaces with some of these older legends that I have been able to be around, I am, winning is there. It's there. There's one particular way that I don't feel like I'm winning. And I can be honest about it. And I feel like it's pretty much the story for many of us. But I want to just live off of my art comfortably. Definitely not. Definitely not. Got to be on stages, got to work like a workhorse, got to have the jingles, got to have voice lessons. I got to be working to live off of my art. And that's the only thing that frustrates me as far as success. Because I want to own a home. I'm not even really into name brand and all that stuff. I love to travel. I don't want to worry about what's going to happen to my bank account if I take a trip to Amsterdam. I don't want to worry about it. But I do. Because music is not that lucrative these days for many of us.
Does that dictate how you create?
No.
Okay.
And then I've been told that's not wise. I've been told you need to be thinking about the type of songs you're writing so you can get that hit, so you can make that money, so you can get on them stages. If you thinking of you need to be moving in this way because it'll appeal to the young people or it'll appeal to white people. White people come out more. That's a fact too. They come out. Maybe black folks, we kind of interesting with each other with how we support. We really are. I've learned a lot about that.
I've seen even with you and Zoe and Terrell going to Tennessee and going to Atlanta and
I've been encouraged to not be myself, to move closer to success. That's been the name of the game forever, but now with internet and social media, at one time it was just always put a rapper on your stuff. That was always the thing that was supposedly gonna give me street credibility and make me hip or whatever. First it was that. Then it was, less bohemian. Perm that hair back, where this kind of, that ain't gonna work. Now it's just like, make songs and sing a little mumbly, you know, and
Change your
repeat.
cadence.
Oh, repeat, yeah, change it, da-da, da-da, like repeat over and over and make your voice a little bit like, so sing along.
You lose the people who got you here when you
Yes,
do
and
that.
they will know.
Because y'all,
They will know.
It sticks out like a sore thumb because I was clear on my why when I started. And that will dictate every decision that I make moving forward as it relates to what I do on here. And I think when
I'm with you.
when you start to jeopardize that, when you start to diminish it, I'm okay with having difficulty sleeping because I can't pay that bill.
Yeah.
It's a different kind of fatigue when you fucking with your spirit and your soul and your
Try to
why.
explain that to some people.
It's not worth it.
No, for me it isn't. And there's the rebel there. There's that part of me that's been, you know, I don't care what you say. When I worked in radio, oh my gosh, it wasn't Queen Optimistic they didn't think that's who I was. I was always sweet to people and real cool with people, but when it came to the job or the music, you like that? I was doing a lot of that. Like, you think you're gonna put this on the air as opposed to this, but this is like real music. Boy, you don't like nothing. I was always told that you don't like nothing. I'm like, I don't like crap. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's so much better music out here, and this is a company that can play whatever they want. No offense, guys. But, because you gotta be careful these days what you say. But I have my why as well. And it has never changed. It has really never changed. I'm such a dreamy, imaginative person. I always wanted to touch people and make them feel loved and make them have a party and make them feel good or milk their emotions and have them go deep within themselves. Like Holding Back the Years does when I listen to it. You know what I mean? So
I remember being a kid crying listening to that song.
Yeah.
Not knowing why. I just knew that there was something in there that connected what was in here.
Yep.
And I cried. I had a red boombox.
Yep.
And that shit cranked. And I'd play it over and over again. And me and my cousins would sit in the room and cry together.
That's what I'm talking about. I want that. You know what I mean? I want emotion. I want to evoke something in you that will have you either thinking about life, thinking about yourself, thinking about having a good time, whatever. But I don't want to just give you something and you like it for a month or two, and then the next thing you like it for a month or two. And that's kind of what I had been advised by some, a lot more on the corporate side of things, especially when I worked in radio. So
let me ask you a question, because I want to, I know, patience.
Patience and time are very connected.
Yeah. At the end of the song, you're chanting stop.
Yeah.
And then somebody's whistling.
Yeah, I just did that.
Okay, there any significance about that? I wanted to, it stuck out. It was perfect and it was different. And the stop sounded so intentional with it being repeated over and over and over again.
Yeah. Yet another conversation with myself. And the whistling was spirit-led, because it didn't even come out clear all the way, and I just left it.
But that shit was perfect though.
I left it.
I loved that.
That was not planned, but it was something I felt was downloaded to me from the universe. To the ending of it also, with the way the guitar strummed, it made me think about strolling and whistling and contemplating, like, because that's what that song really is about. Just like, I've always imagined, even if I do a video for that song, being in maybe like New Haven, in a neighborhood, and just walking down the street and looking around. Because that song, the stop part, it has a double meaning. It's partly me telling myself, I gotta stop some of these things that I do. I gotta stop before life doesn't give me the patience. And here's why I say that. And so stop doing what you're doing. Stop trying to be so fast. Stop trying to be ahead, trying to be everywhere at once. And so that's partly why I was telling myself to stop. But also, life will stop you if you don't pick up on things that need to be altered, that are moving in the wrong direction and are very fast. And I say that really because back to the memoirs, back to the stories. I've lived such a life. And there's a line in the song, constantly down to take the ride. And maybe it's time that I catch my breath for a while. That was very specific. Lanes can take a left turn and before you know you're down and you're lying on the ground. I was in a motorcycle accident, 22, maybe 23, first year of my relationship, my past long relationship. And I was just being stupid. I was hanging out with friends in DuPont Circle, drinking, kicking it, and I love motorcycles. Here's the kicker. Here's the juice. Because I don't even put this out there because the conversations get on my damn nerves. I'm just prefacing. I don't even have a driver's license, okay? But I decided to get on somebody's bike and go for a ride. We all at a pool hall, playing pool, drinking. We want to take the party to my homie's crib. He's like, I live right up the street. This is in the dead of winter, January of 2002, maybe? 3, somewhere around there. Let's go to so-and-so house. Don't laugh at me, y'all. I got a motorcycle. I know it's wintertime. It's cold. I don't have no car, though. And I was like, oh, I love bikes. I'd been on one before with the basketball player. And I had kind of gotten into learning how you move with the, So I felt very confident on taking a ride with a man who had been drinking that I just met that day to go to a hang with my band. Some of my bandmates were there. My actual guy was in Switzerland on a tour, but 2 of my other friends and bandmates were there. And they were like, are you sure? Are you sure you want to take the ride?
They said that.
Yes. Funky Chuck. I remember my bassist at the time. He was like, we got the car, we can meet y'all. We could just meet him at the crib. And I was like, I love bikes. He got a bike, I'll take it. He said he lives 10 minutes from here. It's not gonna even be a long ride. And I'll never forget his face. He said, okay. And he had this fleece hat on. He took it off his head. He was like, you don't even have a damn helmet, Deborah. At least put this on your head. He put this fleece hat on my head. And me and my brother, I'm not even gonna say his name because there's a whole perspective that comes with that too, that I'll get to. But we were in DuPont Circle, not on the highway or anything, thank God. And I remember this vividly still to this day because I wasn't even knocked out from that accident. I was on the back of the bike and I remember it being a little bit of traffic in DuPont and there were some pockets of open road and he was kind of weaving in and out of traffic. So kind of weaving in and out. And I remember just leaning, telling myself that's what you're supposed to do. And I remember one moment where I got nervous. Like this is like, he's just scaring me with the weaving and stuff. And I closed my eyes. It was like, Jesus. Boom, that's all I just closed my eyes and then boom, I just felt like a jolt. And I had my arms around him and I tried to hold on and I just was, the power of it just threw me back. And I landed on my ass. I landed on literally not, I remember, because I was in a sitting position and when I flew off, I was still kind of sitting and I landed like down here and tumbled. Did not hit my head at all. And I remember being like, I cannot believe this just happened. I cannot believe this. And I was sitting there on the ground like, damn it, I'm gonna, like, ooh. And so he comes up to me, knees just bleeding like shit, because he landed forward and tumbled. I landed on my ass. We both did not hit our heads. Neither one of us had on helmets. And he came over, and the lady, we ran to the back of an SUV, I guess. Or I think what happened was he was trying to cut around someone who also, like he was going, because I remember leaning like, oh God, oh shit. I remember like really being scared. And then like, boom, that like bump kind of feeling. And then the lady got out the car and was like, oh my God, are you okay? And I was like, I'm alive. Like, it was weird. I was just sitting there like, I'm all right. Okay, I'm not knocked out, or I don't have no concussion, I don't think. Like, and I was, and then he was like nervous, like, she's fine. You're okay, right? You straight? And now I know why, leading up to everything that happened in light of that. But he was like, you straight? You good? And I was like, I'm all right. I'm fine. And he went, and when he went to take my hand to pull me up, I could not stand up, and I just shrieked out a scream. And I remember the best way, I describe it this way every time, but the way it felt when I tried to stand was like a metal rod was just poked through my crotch, through my pelvis. And I just screamed like, I can't get up, I cannot get up, I cannot get up. And then the next thing I know, it was just a whirlwind of me on the thing, and they put me in the thing, and them cutting my pants off and trying to figure out what's wrong, and I'm drunk, and I gotta pee. They're like, girl, you better just go ahead and pee. I'll never forget the lady in the ambulance like, honey, just pee. She was like, I'm sorry, because you ain't getting up. You're not going to a bathroom. And I was just like, what? No, I don't want to go to the hospital. I don't want this to be a thing. I just thought I could walk away. And they were like, no, you can't walk.
What happened?
I broke my pelvis, cracked it, just cracked that motherfucker. And nothing else. Oh, no, I cracked my collarbone, broke an ankle, and nothing else. I have a couple of little marks on my hand from like my hand scraping the concrete, and humbled as shit. Humbled as shit, because then the next wave of like, we've got to tell your mother, you're in the hospital, your boyfriend's in Switzerland, there's no cell phones, there's answer machines and shit.
Yeah.
My family, my brother and my mother, they got in a car that night from New Haven and came down. It was embarrassing. I couldn't walk. I was in a wheelchair. I thought I was gonna have this kind of limp thing. I was like, my career's done. I was known for being sassy on stage. You see me with Zoe, I wanna dance.
Oh yeah.
I was like, that's over. It was so dark. And that was life stopping me. Stop this. Stop this. Stop this. What? My mother was so mad. She was like, you don't even drive a car. What were you doing on a bike? I don't know. I was just hanging out. I was having a good time. I like to have a good time. Too much sometimes. Sometimes you got to think, And so not being able to walk, hilariously enough, the people in the hospital, I was at GW, they were like, we've never had a patient have so many visitors. They were like, you are loved. A lot of friends. They all came to see Debo.
You said that.
It was a freaking catheter. You know what I mean? Like, so people, I'm like sitting there and my friends are like, Debo, you peeing right now? I'm like, wait, what? Oh, it's coming.
You can't feel it, can you? You just see it come out the tube.
There's an aftermath of that shit too. As a woman, you gotta freaking kegel it up a little bit afterwards. Like I was on Oxycontin and Percocet. At the same time, I had morphine in my I thank God that I didn't pick up an addiction. You know what I mean? My mom, who was a nurse, when I was in the hospital for 5 days, no insurance. Stop. I didn't really know what hospital bills were like. But just that morphine pump that I had to help my pain, thousands of dollars for 4 days, 5 days. I got 2 days covered by the city. The other 2, all on me. And I mean money, big money. I had to walk, I had to learn like how to walk again and all of that, and go through the therapy and the physical therapy, and that was billed, all of that, And so, and then, really what humbled me is I had to go home because I was did I have a job at that time? I think I was temping maybe at that time. And my mom is like, what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
You can't even walk. So then my mother's gotta wash me. My mom's gotta take.
And your sister's there.
My sister's there. I'm on all this medication. I am like stoned, and like my mother's like, you're not even taking the Oxycontin on your own. I'm gonna give it to you because you are not gonna. She's so in the know of like that whole thing that she was like, I'm gonna keep these in my room, and every time I'm gonna give it. She let me administer the Percocet for myself, but that Oxy, she was like, no, because people start to like this feeling. I actually absolutely hated the way I felt during those months.
Constipation is a monster.
Oh my God.
That's the one that got me.
Oh.
I was debating, okay, do I want to shit or do I want to feel pain? I was literally negotiating between the two, and a lot.
Here's the thing. I want to shit, but the place it comes from is broken. Like, so I'm like.
And the amount of extra work you gotta put in to.
That is not cool.
Oh, nah.
Making me spirit prune drinks and stuff, which
They are from the South.
Humbling. My mom made me a killer. I mean, I'm a real human, so I have no problem talking about human shit. I didn't go for like over a week from them pills. Yeah. And so she was like, Deborah, I'm your mother and I'm a nurse. You gotta go.
You gotta go.
But I know it's gonna be painful, so I'm gonna make you a little serum. That was like you ever seen Dumb and Dumber? Check out the scene in Dumb and Dumber. That was me. Anyway, but those 2 months having to move back to Connecticut, having my mother take care of me, we were still coming maybe out of this like tension of her being like, you're so wild in DC, and like, I ain't raised you that way, and her being not having control of me, because she was a little on the strict side in some ways when it came to like my social life. Everything else, I could travel the world, I could run track and take karate and all the other things I did, but boys and friends and kicking it too much, not playing around. So she was happy I was alive, but of course she's pissed at me.
Yeah,
you know
for sure.
I mean? And I was pissed at myself because I really was afraid that my shit was done, like my career and stuff. And life stopped me. Life was like, you stop playing around. Stop thinking you gotta be always down to take the ride. Like, you gotta be always like in shit, always at the party. I really felt like I had missing out syndrome from being raised so strict. I always felt like I was missing out on fun. So when I was able to have it without my mom telling me what to do,
you lamped
I
out.
took advantage. I mean, I did not finish college. Like I didn't end strong.
No.
Didn't end strong.
No, I don't want to it ain't over. The game ain't over.
It ain't over, but I mean, here's the thing about life. Maybe I wasn't even supposed to go.
But you ain't the end of what though? Like,
hey, maybe I'll return. I don't think I'm a devil.
No, I'm talking about life. Like
no. Oh, no. Life ain't over. Life ain't over. That's the one thing, if I ain't learned, knock on something, because that's just one brush I had when it comes to stopping. I mean, I was also jumped and mugged in Zimbabwe with a group of kids on our way to see Shabba Ranks at 16. Like, I was on my way to a party in Zimbabwe. My mother let me go for a month when I was 16 for this program for the inner city kids, and you get to spend a month in Zimbabwe, International Ambassador for Education. I was hyped because I love to travel. And that was my first big thing. The second night I got there on a Thursday, mugged on Friday. And I mean, we all could have died. It was about eight of us, and about 20 of them on our way to the concert. And being fast, like, we were in these host families. We had chaperones and stuff that were part of the program, but they also put us with host families who were beautiful people, life-changing experience, best experience of my life. But the kids of the host family was like our age. My host family had kids a little bit older. And the other kids were like calling, like, guess what, yo, Shaba is in town. We doing a concert tomorrow. This is 1993. This is this heyday of dance hall. I am a dance hall junkie. I am so excited. How much it costs? $5 American. Oh, we going. These little boys, 4 of them from the host family, got the permission. We made a plan. Some of the chaperones were gonna meet us there. They were like, this will be a fun little outing for the kids. We pile in this car, like 8 of us, pile in this big little vanny thing, this car, and we go driving, and we park at this cat's house. And stop and think a minute. I didn't do that. Why are we parking here? The stadium was like way down the way. So we park here, and we just start walking, didn't ask no questions, walking, and then we get pretty close. You see the stadium, see the lights, and next thing you know, here come this group of dudes, and they're going, Shaba, Shaba, Shaba. And I got scared, just like I held on to that dude on that bike. That's so wild. Just as I held on to him when I started to get scared, I put my arm inside of one of the boys' arms because they were a little bigger than us. And I kind of got close to him as we were like walking towards them. And then they went and passed us by. And the next thing I know, I just felt an arm just grab me against the neck. Just how I got stopped and thrown off that bike. I got an arm around the neck, and then it just turned into a blackout, like fighting and scuffling and like me pulling and like them trying to get my, it was crazy. And it was fast. It was like a couple, it felt like it was so fast. And I'm blind as a bat. We were some real thick glasses. I had my glasses on that trip. I didn't have my contacts with me on that trip. And they were knocked off. I couldn't find them anywhere. We could not find them. They told us not to carry no money because there's a lot of pickpockets, which is very real. And I had it in this thing that would go under your shirt, and it was like very 90s. You twist it off and you could put stuff in there, and a little rope, like you could go in the pool with it, whatever. So I had this paper that said I was like an American, some little piece of paper, the keys to my host family's house, $250.
Oh shit, you was rolling.
$250.
In 93?
250 American. No, was it American? No, African. Maybe it was African dollars. No, it was American. It was money. And that gone. It rope burn. Got a rope burn to prove it. They pulled it. They ripped it. I was holding it, and he's like, just yanked that thing off. He got into my shirt, felt that thing, grabbed it, had on coat, gone. I mean, they robbed us, and I had bruises all over my arms. Now, mind you, this is 93. I was probably about 90 pounds. I didn't even make it to 100 pounds till college. I was always a little person, you know? And so I was pretty bruised up a little bit. I didn't have anything they didn't hit me, thankfully, in my face or anything, but it was a lot of grabbing, like kidnapping type shit.
Yeah.
And didn't make it to the concert. Didn't go to the concert. Some people wanted to go to the concert.
Oh, shit.
But stop. Just stop at this point, Deborah. Stop. Go back. So I said, I don't want to go. I can't even see now. So what am I going to do? I don't want to go. One of the other girls was like, I kind of want to go. The chaperones went. The other kids went. The next day, I was in shock. I can now diagnose myself. I was definitely experiencing shock because it was a very I didn't have much to say. I remember waking up the next morning and going to the porch to sit there. And I was just sitting on my host family's porch, and there was a newspaper, and it said, Shaba Ranks concert, girls raped. That was on the cover. My chaperones, I then found out, made it to the concert. Here's the key factor. We parked so far because the boys didn't want to park in the neighborhood of the concert because the concert's in the bad neighborhood. They didn't tell us that. We didn't even ask. We didn't say, why do we park like a 20-minute walk away from the stadium? If they would have been like, because it's dangerous over there, I might have thought, maybe I don't want to go. But we didn't ask no questions because we was fast. We was just trying to do what we wanted to do. And so the people in that neighborhood were so angry about that concert that they rioted the concert. My chaperones got tear gas. People were damn near getting trampled. They all got out okay. But groups of men were grabbing up women and raping them. I read the thing and it said that they were running into the police stations naked, and these groups of men just like from the neighborhoods. I read that and just sat there, because that was definitely gonna be me. The dude kept saying, you gonna come with me, you coming with me. That could have definitely been. If those boys weren't there, it probably would have been us, because they were fighting for us. I mean, we were all fighting, but it was like 20 of them. And so, yet again, that was like the first real brush with like. And I had to be there for a full month after, like a full month.
Yeah.
I stayed. I was like, I take a little pride in my perspective at 16, because I was walking in the night with a Tommy Hilfiger jacket, never forget that jacket, some Nike Air Maxes or whatever it was.
Oh, you was over there stunting.
I was stunting. I had a job. At that age, I was working at Bradley's department store.
I ain't never heard of Bradley's. That's some New England shit?
That's some New England shit. That's like, like Kohl's or something.
Okay.
And so I had a job. I was like, I was trying to be cute out in, Zimbabwe. I'm walking in, these people don't live the life I live. They don't have the things I have. And I'm arrogant enough to walk in your poor neighborhood with my stylish things and like in your hood.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm from the hood, so I get that shit too. You coming in my hood with your shit?
Yeah.
So when it was time to talk about if I wanted to tell my mother, I knew I was gonna come home if I told her. My mother is not a joke. She don't play.
So you didn't tell her?
I had to tell her something because I couldn't see. And this was not 2022 where you could go to the internet and get somebody to email the prescription and bring it to the doctor. They needed to airmail my prescription. I don't even think, when did email come? I don't think it was
I wonder how
yet.
much that cost.
It cost it.
We the same age. So email was, you were 16. That put you what, 92, 93?
93.
Yeah, there's just no way email was popping. Heavy.
No, they had to air. They had to air. I was like, they were like, we don't feel comfortable with you lying to your mama. But how do you feel? And I was like, it was my fault. It was our fault. We didn't handle ourselves properly. I didn't want to say I got what I deserve, but that's kind of where my mind was, because I had perspective a little bit about where they were coming from.
Yeah.
And I said, I want to stay. And they said, well, then you have to figure out how you want to do this with your moms. So told my mom that I was on a safari and I fell on my face. When I got home and told my mother that story, she was like, I'm so glad you didn't tell me the truth, because I knew you were lying. I could feel it, because you have been wearing glasses since you were 5 and you have never fallen and broken them ever in your life. And you were playing sports. She's like, I did not believe that. She's like, something in my spirit said that's not what happened. And she's like, I'm just glad you didn't tell me. Because when I told her, it was, as you can imagine, it was hard for her to hear that.
Yeah. I'm surprised you didn't get a whooping.
I didn't get a whooping. I was 16, but she was like.
That's at least a thump.
I didn't even get none. You know what the wild thing is? My grandmother gave me whoopings. My mom never gave me whoopings. Grandma was always the disciplinarian with that, with switches. But yeah, I learned a lot of lessons, you know what I'm saying? And like with Patience, when I heard that track and I heard that music, it made me feel like slowing down and listening. And I wanted to write about that aspect of my personality, really constantly down to take the ride. Constantly down to take the ride. I said that. Then the first time I said constantly down to take the ride. In the second verse I said, are you sure you want to take that ride? Maybe you got to put that behavior, you got to put that aside a little bit and start slowing down. Plus you getting older. you gotta slow down. It's a part of life. But me, I've always been, I had a hashtag, go Bora go. It was, I mean, if you search it right now, there's all this stuff. Because that was like the narrative. Like, go Bora, go! No, slow down. Getting older, have a breath. Have some patience. It's okay, slow down. What you rushing off to? Because there's a section, it's like maybe if you take a moment to stop, take a look around, what will you find? Places, destinations, and signs say that you've arrived. What do you think you gotta get that you don't have already? Because I had this whole thing when I was younger, like deficit, like not enough, not enough. And that was like a letter to myself, and yet again, with time. It was like me speaking to myself, but also wanting others to think about that if they're like me. If you like me, better think about it, because how many chances you gonna get?